So
if I can get that,
Matt,
I've got no.
how often do you guys have those rolling power surges?
I know. So I said, you guys, we really need to get some kind of protection in the electrical panel, whether it's just a straight interrupt or something that actually corrects the voltage on a second by second basis. But this is the second time in a year. The last time it happened on this end of the machine, and it blew out the iFoil, and it was another set of this thing caused that thing, which made that thing go bad. So it took like a week to fix that problem.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can get some information for you, because there's something that looks like a capacitor. It's a surge arrestor, and it attaches to the bottom of the panel, and it's like really inexpensive. It's so worth it. Any surge at all, it'll go, and it's inexpensive to replace. And instead of you working on your machine, you can call an electrician and be up in an hour or two. So let me find that out.
Yeah. So yeah, if you would please just email that to me, that would be great.
Ready to start?
Get started. Yeah, Ken, welcome to some of us for the first time. Welcome to the community, to Ron and the team. Ken, take it away. It's your meeting, buddy.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. It's been like a month, and I haven't seen your smiling faces. Marco, welcome again. Would you, because the rest of the people here are operators, could you introduce yourself, Marco?
Hi, I'm Marko from Croatia. I'm a showroom operator and operator on JETforce, also very deeply on the service side of the JETforce technology. And I'm 6 years with those machines. So as the rest of the guys know, you can ask me whatever basically you want around those machines, and I will try to find the fix up, help, or some kind of idea to give you some kind of idea to help you.
Yeah, and for Ron and Michelle and Leslie, what you've got here is you've got a pretty solid group of experience. Matt is super strong on the design side. If you have design questions or issues that you're wondering why a particular typeface won't work or why something in a design won't work, he's your guy. Marco is a little bit of our corporate tie, so if the technical knowledge gets above and beyond our heads as a group, he's been awful helpful. And Kevin, if you don't know Kevin's family is the family that actually made the JETvarnish and developed it as a product. So before Konica Minolta took it over, Kevin is responsible, and his family is responsible for that machine even existing. So this is a really solid knowledge base. Adam's usually here, and Gerardo's here. Gerardo is he's been running one for years as well, so he's a lot of information. But what we usually do is we start off by getting some feedback from you guys as operators. Can you talk about either some successes or some challenges that you've had in the last couple of weeks, and let's see if we can iron those out so you can be more productive. Gerardo, you want to start? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Leslie.
Well, I personally, oiling has been great. However, getting to fine detail has been really difficult on my end. I tried to kind of put less varnish, and then there's just voids, and it's just difficult to get fine detail down.
You're talking about smooth? Are you talking about lines and defects? What kind of imperfections?
So it's kind of where it's a small kind of typeface or kind of small images, and either the varnish is too thick and it gets rid of the fine detail, or it's too thin and it doesn't show enough detail.
What size type are you talking about? Because typically you don't get much below, and I mean, Matt, you can confirm this, but you don't really want to get much below 10, and you're talking about all your holes and your O's and P's being full, and maybe the serif type fonts. You want to stay away from those too, because it is a liquid, and it will run, and it will cause you problems, and you won't be able to get the super fine details like that. You add more, Matt?
Okay, so yeah, let me back up because I got pulled away and asked a question. I apologize for that, but I am at work. So,
Ryan, oh wait, Matt,
yeah,
Matt, you sound like a robot. We're getting a weird. I feel like your microphone's just maybe got water on it or something. You sound
no,
muffled.
I think it's probably the internet. Wait a minute.
Yeah, maybe turn off your video feed. You get more bandwidth.
How do I do that?
You press the little camera button on the bottom.
Okay. Is that any better?
No.
Not so much.
No.
No better? Okay.
I think it started when you put your headphones, canceling headphones.
Yeah.
On.
Well, while Matt's figuring that out, maybe Gerardo, do you have any feedback on how to? First of all, Ron and Julia, and what kind of machine are you guys running? Just so we know. Do you know the
It's
size of the machine?
3DS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3DS.
3D.
Well,
Okay, so that's what Gerardo, you have that. How do you get around some of those issues?
Well, the first thing we learned when we got our machine was first of all surface tension, that we can do fine detail, but the material, the sheet that you are printing on, it's key. It has to be almost sealed to get to the detail. We made some business cards with foil with 9-point, but no serifs, no intricate details, just full fonts. And like Futura, like something like that. Don't go overboard with detailing unless it's big, and with a small amount of varnish. Don't go beyond 50 or 60. And you can maybe even foil small lettering on 70 or 80, but the material, the laminate must be key. It must be taken into account every single time, because the substrate, if the substrate is too porous, it will go down. You will lose detail, and almost every single time.
yeah, those papers like Pace Setter and some of those cheaper ones that Spicer carries, when they knock down gloss, what they're really doing is they're powdering up the gloss, and then they're beating it to death. So a lot of it absorbs into the paper, and then you lose your surface. So you really want to go with a better product like Flow, and stay away from a lot of the mattes. But you need to test, right? You can, if you get enough samples from your sample guy. I won't name any names, but you've got to test, and then you have to decide which, because there's think about a water on a sheet of paper, right? Sometimes it stays where you put it, and sometimes it runs, sometimes it absorbs. So your number twos and your number one type sheets are going to be much better for that. And especially if you want fine detail, stick with a gloss, because it's going to stick. It's going to stay where you put it, and you're going to have a better chance of foiling it. But stay away from those tails and those fancy fonts. You want something block. You want something like Arial. You want something like whatever Matt's going to suggest, because he's really good at getting those fine details and knowing what to put it on and what not to.
Okay, so is my audio better?
Whoa, buddy, that's even worse. But you know what? I'm gonna buy you a headset, man. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna order. Send me your address. I'm gonna send you a headset with a little microphone. I feel like we're always fighting the microphone, buddy. Yeah.
And obviously, you've got two sets of dryers in your machine. One is the setting dryer, and then one is a curing dryer. So that setting dryer is right after the heads, and you want to make sure that one's up at 100% for that small stuff. You don't want to give it any time to absorb into the sheet. You want to cure it and pin it as fast as you can. But that doesn't mean run the machine fast. That just means run where you're comfortable, but pin it as quickly as you can.
I heard. I remember back when I used to do lots of demos. I don't know if you guys run into this, and Marco, I'm sure you have a lot to say on this. Whenever I went directly onto toner, I'd always get a much better detail than if I was on just a regular ink or anything like that. So surface tension does definitely play a good role in that. Do you guys see that too, or no? Like varnishing directly onto dry toner?
Yeah, I think we've always had more success over toner rather than
Right.
just a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And if the type is black, the other thing you can do, especially on the Konica Minolta machines, is go into your image tab and go ahead and turn it up to 130%, because you're going to get more toner down. It's going to seal the edges a little bit better, and then it should bond easier. But there's still some things you need to stay away from design wise. And if we can get Matt hooked up, I'm sure he's going to be so much help here.
Matt, you want to give it another shot, buddy?
This is a business card, a small business card, a normal business card, and it's a 5-point text
That's fine.
with black foil. The key was the surface lamination black, so it worked very well.
Yeah.
But the text was so small, you have to count every single time, and the key is the base material you're using.
And obviously, if you do that small type over laminate, it'll work even better, because laminate is just the perfect surface to go ahead and put that jet varnish on.
Yeah.
Hey, since we're talking about papers, does anybody have workarounds for uncoated paper?
Oh man, Matt.
And we'll send you a video.
You gotta talk to Matt.
There's a couple ways you can do it. Matt has an instructional video that'll tell you how to put down a high amount of varnish, like 73 microns, and then create a second mask with the same coverage and run it through a second time, and then you can have some luck with uncoated. But there's also some companies out now that are working to coat uncoated paper so that it doesn't absorb. I know that Spicer's does have a sheet that is a very matte finish, but that's technically an uncoated sheet. I wish I could remember the name of it right now, but it sometimes can do the trick with customers that want uncoated. And obviously,
So that's,
and the other thing that you can do too is go ahead and print an image and then put the varnish right on top of the print, almost like thermography. The jet varnish can be a thermographer, actually. So if you put down a build of reflex blue or black, and then you come through and varnish it, you can get that raised feel.
right.
But varnish going down first is a bit of a challenge. And then even then, still, you want to use really good sheets like Mohawk Super Smooth and some of those uncoated sheets that are really, really hard and smooth. That way, the first pass that Matt, we will give you the link to that video. Matt, if you could pop that up in the comments, maybe the link to that video, or Kevin.
That's what I'm doing now.
That starting with a good substrate is always the precursor to a great finished job.
I've also heard that there's a couple sources that are successful aqueous coating a uncoated sheet to make it work. Anybody have experience with that?
I've tried it.
We did it. We did it in Bratislava on Harris Bruno coater before jet varnish B2 machine on some materials, but I don't know if the guys used UV or aqueous coated for coating the machine. So basically what Ken said, you need to clog up the paper. On any way you know or you can do it, basically you need to clog the paper so the varnish doesn't go inside of it. I did it like the Matt's video. I did it with on 3DS with 21 microns in first pass, and then on a second pass, whatever basically I want. But you need to remember that the edges will not be sharp as on the lamination, or some materials that are completely sealed because the varnish will get inside of those porous parts of the paper.
The other issue too is when you put aqueous coating into an uncoated sheet, you're introducing an awful lot of moisture, and you're going to end up with curled paper. And then once it's curled, getting it under the inkjet heads, I'm sure Leslie knows, is a nightmare, and it scrapes and pops, and then you're building in all kinds of straps and things to hold the sheet down to the vacuum bed, and it's a challenge. I know for sure that Nina is working on some sheets that they're trying to learn how to coat. And I know that Harrison Bruno has had some experience coating uncoated paper too. They have in the past. And I think that in the near future, you're going to have some options to be able to do that. But just ask your vendors. Your vendors, MGX is also a good vendor for paper that they've treated or coated. And they have some synthetics that'll go through toner machines, and Spicer's has a few that emulate the feeling of an uncoated sheet. So talk to your vendors, but then Leslie's really going to have to test these things. She's going to have to put them through and use normal settings and not work too hard to get them to work, and see what will work in your workflow and what won't.
So GPA distributes a paper from Fedrigoni called the Soho Soft Touch or Soho Touch. It also goes under the name Tintoretto. And this is a paper that was built for the olive oil industry, so that olive oil labels, if the oil would drip off the side of the bottle and got to the label, it wouldn't turn the label yellow. It kind of just repel off of it. So that's where the paper is originally from. It looks uncoated, it feels uncoated, and you can do some good stuff. The problem is, of course, it's quite expensive.
The Ispira 2 from Fedrigoni is quite good. It's
which one?
It's Ispira. It's called Ispira. It's like Fedrigoni owns Cordonons 2. It's the Plike equivalent in the Fedrigoni line.
I know GPA has a couple of products too, and I don't know if you guys have experimented with it. A lot of the pearl ices, they're metallics. A couple of the manufacturers have metallized boards now that work. So you should be able to create some pretty interesting stuff with some of this new substrate that's out. But it's really important to keep that relationship going with your paper suppliers, because they are in the background working on it. I know Kevin and I, last time we were at Amplify, we were talking to some paper manufacturers, and they're all aware of this. They all know the trend is moving forward toward embellished products, and they're working feverishly to get papers to work. So, and look at your fringe paper companies too, because just because there's not a guy coming into your office doesn't mean that they're not making some fantastic stuff for embellishment.
Actually, I have one rule for selecting paper. If it shines, it's semi-coated, it would usually work. With some work and some tweaking, some satin-like sheets usually work very well. You have to just test.
And also, I should add, if they're Indigo approved, I know they're not doing that quite so much anymore, but that means they were coated with a special solution to get them to work well on the Indigo for their inks to adhere. And if it's HP approved, it usually performs very well on a jet varnish as well.
Yeah.
What other issues have you guys had in the past couple of weeks?
On another note, I want to thank Matthew, for your tips on the augmenting the vacuum on my 3DS. The leaks stopped, so no need to replace the heads yet. So I just augmented 1 millibar on the system, and no more leaking. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you for
All
that.
What a success story.
Yeah, it's a $12,000 success story for
the $12,000 success story. That's
Yeah.
Yet another success on Marco's list.
Yes. How about you, Marco? What have you been seeing, buddy?
I didn't do so much on the machines. We had open days of the showroom last week for the PP and IP. And finally, the people are asking a lot about varnish, and finally is coming to sense that is really big add-on for the printouts and everything. You know, we are so small market. We have only 3.8 million people in Croatia, so we are really, really small. But in the end, we have, I don't know how much, 6, 7 installations of the small
Wow.
machines. Yeah, only small ones, with or without foil.
You have more installations there in Mexico, and we're 130 million. So you're good.
I know.
You're
Yeah.
good.
Matt, were you
So
able to
for now,
rectify your one?
what?
I was wondering if Matt has rectified his sound. I know he's got a lot of good. No, okay. Next week. In 2 weeks. So.
Actually, I feel Matthew on the problems he's having. The power issues are a nightmare, and without proper stabilization, it's something to take care of every single time on every module. Even we had a few problems with communications between the modules because of that. And after the installation of these power regulators, not batteries, just power regulators, it became more secure for us for the operation to go ahead. So yes, power it's a concern, and every single machine on the Xerox presses, on the Konica Minolta presses, and even more on the MGI.
Yeah. What were you saying, Ken, about the thing that you wanted to? You think everybody should install their electrical panel? Did you find that? I know you were looking for it.
No, I mean I have to get the technical information from the supply house, but yeah, it literally looks like a 12-ounce can, and it mounts to the bottom of the power panel, and it's really inexpensive. Now, when the power does surge, it blows, but that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to blow
Right.
once anything gets to the equipment.
Yeah.
So it's like a big fuse.
It's kind of like a big fuse, yeah.
Yeah, well, the problems that we are encountering, it's not about over surges, but under surges, and even more dangerous.
No kidding.
No kidding.
The machines are going the middle power, and they don't have enough electricity to keep going, so they just sometimes they go out. They preferably we turn off everything because of the underpower. And that's even more dangerous than overpowering. The machines are even more sensitive to that. So you have to be very careful with stabilizing. And if you have the budget, to buy some couple of batteries and shut the machine off immediately.
Wow.
Yeah, I would think that would cause some serious communication issues between the pilot and the machine for sure.
That's what we had. Yes, that's what we had. The famous 562 error, CONCAM error, that the hub between the pilot and the rest of the machine wasn't communicating. So we had to be very careful. And didn't have the machine stabilized itself after 2 days, but when the power went down again, the same mistake happened. So you have to be very careful with power issues. Yes, it's a thing.
Leslie, as the new contributors to the forum, do you have any more questions for today? Anything else you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of right now, no.
Okay.
What kind of work do you do?
It's mostly like business cards right now. We've done also flyers and stuff like that.
Yeah, commercial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I was thinking we should do like a show and tell next time, where everybody basically brings one piece, and we do a show and tell where everybody shows off like the coolest piece that they did. And then I was talking to MGI about putting together like some JETforce awards, different types of categories with all the different JETforcers from around the world, so that we can see everybody can kind of measure their skills against what's going on. And obviously there'd be a little video on how it was made and stuff like that, so we can kind of share the knowledge of some of these advanced operators. People like Gerardo and Matthew guys are immense value to this community. The work that they do, I don't know if you've seen some of Matt's videos, or even Gerardo has done like 7-pass greeting cards that are absolutely just out of this world. Really, really something that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's more than just bragging rights too, because when you get somebody on and they're talking about what can be done, you'd be like, I didn't know they had purple foil. I didn't know you could get that kind of a texture. Didn't know that you could have success on that type of paper. So it's really helpful. I think that's a great idea, Kevin.
Well, I think it'll be great, but I do have one question for the group while I have all of you here. I was talking to a user. He had an issue. He didn't know how to fix it. He's doing a lot of two-sided foiling. And it seems that on one side, the foil seems to almost be embossing through it to the other side. Have you guys ever seen that issue where the foil basically pushes back out through the other side? And is there any way to limit that other than just going to a thicker paper?
Thicker paper. Obviously, the thicker paper will solve the issue. The nature of the paper, it's key. If it's very small, very thin, it will go through no matter what, because you're using force against force. Very difficult.
Only on the two-sided though, not on the one side.
But don't forget too that now that you've put varnish on one side, you've increased the thickness of that sheet of paper. It might not take the same amount of pressure on the second side, so you might want to be turning down both your pressure and temperature on that foil roll when you do that second side.
That's what Matt just put in the comments.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Also, how did was it right after they printed, or did they find that out after they decided to guillotine cut their product instead of?
So that was the first question I asked. That was the first question I asked Ken. I go, "Did you guillotine cut it?" He goes, "Yeah, we guillotine cut it." I go, "Well, there you go." And they don't know yet to put the magnetic foam pad on the clamp to limit the impact. And then so I said, "Well, that's the problem. If you're guillotine cutting two-sided foil." It had like 2 passes or 3 passes on both sides, so it was like 6-pass job. I go, that's gonna create some indentations.
You have to use a Duplo or something like that cutter. There's no other way.
I just want to tell.
The other thing too is don't let it cure too long. Do them in small batches. Because if you let it cure on the first side too long, that varnish gets time to harden even further and becomes lumpy. So if you do them in passes of 250 and then turn them over right away, you can kind of get away with it because that varnish on the first side is still a little soft. So.
Yeah, but
so much knowledge in this group. This is incredible. Go ahead, Marco.
Help, as Gerardo said, my customer also bought a Duplo with slitters and cutters sheet by sheet, and they solved the problem they had with the guillotine, especially for 60-70 micron thickness of the varnish. Always problems on the guillotine and stabilization of whole pile of papers and everything. Now they have Duplo with the creasing, with the slitting, and they just run it sheet by sheet, and everything basically what they are finishing with the cutting on a 3DS is going to Duplo.
Yeah, one of the things that happened with our last Christmas card was there was so much varnish on the elements that I tried to gild the card with gold on the sides. It's a good idea. It worked in principle. A few cards gilded, but the pressure from the machine for gilding marked the cards because of the varnish. So you had like an embossed, like a traditional emboss because of the pressure of the guillotine. So we had no gilding on this one. Maybe next time, or pre gilding the material, because the specific elements on the card was so pointy this time because we did a crystal effect. So the markings were always there. There's no other solution, just one by one on the Duplo.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm sure Matt would say if he could speak is to go ahead and run a couple mil border all the way around the outside edges, outside the cut marks. Because when you get varnished frame, you're not pressing on just the type, you're pressing on that varnished frame. And then you're not embossing the center of the sheet. You're spreading it out across the entire width of the roller.
I've seen that done.
Good stabilization of the whole sheet.
Yeah.
And sometimes those varnish bars that you can put on the side and draw in on the editor will also help with foil too. You can go ahead and foil with those out there, and it keeps that foil roll nice and smooth all the way across.
100%.
Yeah, especially if you start with the small letters on the start of the foiling. I always, in my past, I put the bar before the real design, so you have the stabilization of the foil before the small dots or small letters with the starting of the foil.
That's a very good idea too. Yeah.
Well, awesome, guys. Great. I mean, great to see you again. Great to hear all your great ideas. I end up with a sheet of notes every time I have you guys on. Your wealth of information.
Very cool. Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining. We're going to have a designer meetup at the end of the month. So we're going to have more of a conversation that Matt's going to lead. And Matt, I'm not joking about that microphone. I will buy you that microphone, but Matt's going to lead it. And we're going to talk more about designing and kind of best practices and tips and tricks. So we hope to have all of you come by to that designer meeting and talk about designing for your jet varnish. And in the meantime, for those of you who are new to the community, please, if you have any questions or if you don't know how to do something, just jump on the forum, just ask us. All of us jump onto that immediately once we get a notification. We try to find an answer for you. So it's like having your own little, service team of fellow operators out there helping you. So it's a good community, and we're really proud of it. So thanks again for joining. We hope to see you in all the future meetings, and have a great week, everybody.
Great week. Good to